So, the Elimination Chamber, let's have a little chat about this, because I think a lot like WrestleMania itself, we're looking at a very interesting one, if not one that's been a little bit plagued by injuries and whatnot. I know I've been talking a lot about injuries, but seems to be a very unlucky time in wrestling in general at the moment. But the Elimination Chamber is looking very promising, a lot of big matches, well, the 2 Elimination Chamber matches have basically been announced, and we have a few participants for them, but I already think that I know who is going to win both Elimination Chamber matches. I believe that both are quite obvious, one more obvious than the other, but we'll get onto that. And I'm just going to go ahead and give my thoughts on both Elimination Chamber matches, and kind of give my thoughts on who might also be in it and who I think is going to win. So we'll start off with the Women's Elimination Chamber match. So far announced for that matchup, we have Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, and Liv Morgan. I think it's going to be Becky Lynch. It's very obvious that the winner of the Elimination Chamber is going to go on to face Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania 40. And who currently in that match has history with Rhea Ripley? Well, there's 2, Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch, but who is the bigger name for Rhea to take on at WrestleMania? It's Becky. However, do I think that if Becky wins the Elimination Chamber, she will go on to defeat Rhea Ripley? I don't think so. I think they will save it for Liv Morgan at a later date, but it's a big match for Rhea to have at WrestleMania, and it's something that can cement her legacy as a Women's World Champion. Who else do I think will be in that matchup? I think you could see Jade Cargill. I know there's been some sort of leak, supposed leak, but if you, one, look at the renders, you can tell that none of the additional renders apart from Becky and Bianca have actually been photoshopped and blended in the same way that the Becky and Bianca renders were in that match. And 2, Liv Morgan isn't in the same spot in both of those graphics, so that pretty much debunks the leaks. But I do think that some of them, there's a bit of validity to. I think we might see Jade Cargill in the Elimination Chamber. They might put Naomi in there. I'm not sure who the 6th would be. Who else has beef with Rhea? Nia, maybe? They might actually put Nia in the Elimination Chamber. I think Nia might be in there. It's me in the edit again. Oh no. Get used to this. Get used to this, because it's going to keep happening. I promise you guys, I watched the product. I promise. I just didn't know that there were actually more matches announced for Elimination Chamber, and one of them ruins one of my predictions for who could be in the chamber. Nia Jax is taking on Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. I'm just going to go through the other 2 matches and just give my predictions. Rhea Ripley's beating Nia Jax, and then Judgment Day versus British Strong Style for the tag titles, and Judgment Day are winning. So, as to who could be in there instead of Nia, Shayna Baszler maybe? I guess you just go with someone like Shayna Baszler, just because why not? But anyway, back to your regularly scheduled programming. And then we have the Men's Elimination Chamber. We know 4 people in that matchup: Bobby Lashley, LA Knight, Drew McIntyre, and Randy Orton. This is already looking stacked. It's looking like it's going to be an insane Men's Elimination Chamber. The women's one's going to be good too, but this men's one already looks stacked. But I think there's a winner. And I think the winner is very, very clear. It's Drew McIntyre. We know that the winner is going to go on to face Seth. It's WrestleMania. You don't just look at the biggest match, but you need to look at it from who has history with Seth, the most recent, and also who would be a big name and someone that could go on to feud with CM Punk. That's Drew McIntyre. Before the Rumble, basically since he turned heel, Drew has been so good, and his whole story has been trying to get the championship. He did the whole "I prayed for it and it happened" thing with Punk getting injured. It feels like they have pivoted from Rollins versus Punk to now Drew versus Punk being the bigger matchup. Because I think they were always going to turn CM Punk heel, but now why would you if you have Drew as a heel who can beat Seth? Seth can then take time off after Mania, Drew can go on a monster run, Punk can come back, and then that's your program when Punk comes back. Maybe even WrestleMania 41. But I think Drew McIntyre is a shoo-in. As for the last 2 entrants in this Elimination Chamber, I think you put in Logan Paul to then inevitably set up a potential WrestleMania match with LA Knight. Who else hasn't been in a qualifier match yet? The Miz and Dominic Mysterio? Stick Dominic Mysterio in there. Why not? Put Dominic Mysterio in the Elimination Chamber. That'd be fun. He gets absolutely battered by Drew McIntyre or Randy Orton. Maybe Orton. Maybe Orton Dominic is like a WrestleMania match. I don't know. But in all honesty, the Elimination Chamber, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out, and more importantly, how the Elimination Chamber as a whole looks. But it's looking promising. And the road to WrestleMania is looking very, very exciting for a lot of the top titles.